Good afternoon. It's 5:30 on a Friday evening, and as usual, we have the Sheila Exchange. I'm Sheila Singham, founder of Human Equation, and this is my channel. And today I have two guests, very formidable, strong women, Vatsala Nair Manoharan and Roselin Das. And they are the founders of Moms Village Asia, a social enterprise promoting entrepreneurship among women. These are two very strong women who are passionate about empowering women. Vatsala is a passionate community advocate and champion of women's empowerment. She's a social media activist who comes on really strong, but very elegant on her social media postings. And we have Roselin, who is a digital marketing mentor, a champion of social media tools and technologies. And together they have partnered to create an entity that is aimed at empowering women to take on the mantle of entrepreneurship to become self-sufficient and independent. Thank you, ladies, and welcome.
Yay, thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much for having us here, Sheila.
My pleasure. Coincidentally, earlier this week, Roselin and Vatsala had me on their session talking about my entrepreneurship journey. They asked me to offer words of wisdom. Well, for what it's worth, all I did was talk about my story. And today we're going to listen to their story of how they started this partnership. And first of all, let me ask you, ladies, how did you meet? Who wants to tell us the story?
How did you fall in love with each other?
Yeah,
it's going into that track.
So who would who?
We actually somehow universe brought us together and it was mutual feelings. Okay, how it actually started, I know Vatsala through another Facebook group where they started, and she was doing a lot of amazing things, and she actually inspired me to move forward and go more deeper into mentoring this startup ladies, because at one point I thought, okay, because I had this bitter experience of trying to get them to do something and they just didn't want to do it, and I went like, I think it's not going to work. So that's the right time I met Watts, and she said, no, these ladies really need those. And she was doing a lot of amazing things. So I thought she can do it. I'm sure I can still do it. So it kept me going, and I was admiring her from behind the scene. And then one day she just called and asked me, let's meet up. I want to talk to you. And I went like, yeah, universe answered me. So now let us hear about how she fell in love with her.
Right. So yes, like Rose said, our journey started way about 4 years ago. Yeah, we know each other 4 years ago, and then I was in another place of group with an NGO doing various things, and I've always been passionate about empowering women through earning an income for themselves, at least 10 ringgit per day. So that was ways that I always find things. How can women actually do that? And then, but I wasn't from a very entrepreneurial background. You know, I know that you do business. Basically, if I sell something, someone buys, and that's all the entrepreneurship I know. But then there was more into entrepreneurship. So the first thing I did was I turned my husband's office into like a co-working space. And then I was having these few women there, and I didn't know how to market this business. Then I called upon Rose, can you help me do the digital marketing part of this page? Yeah, I'm going to have rags for women to display their products. I'm going to have play dates for women. I'm going to have counseling sessions, spa, so many things, right? It's like a dream come true for women. But then I didn't know how to do it. So I called Roselin. Roselin was managing the page initially. But then I think the relationship grew more than just managing the page. We were very aligned to the vision. She understood the language that I was talking to her. Not many would actually understand, you know. For some of us, they always think the profit comes first. Yes, the profit supports the purpose, the vision. But ideally, I want people to understand what is that I was actually envisioning. So one person who understood my language was Rose. So as we grew further, along the journey, she was always there. We were sharing visions. We shared a lot of projects together. We shared, but we are poles apart. I am like yin and she's yang, betul poles apart, and we don't agree to each other most of the time. We always go into this debate mode. But then what kept us together was the vision. I want women to earn at least 10 ringgit per day. Why? Of course, our specific beneficiary that we were working with was women who are being abused, right? So for me to restore back their power dynamic, I wanted them to be financially independent. I know they can ideate business. I was really good at giving ideas, but how to develop it further, how to increase the online visibility. Because if you want to do business freely, it was only medium was available was social media. And that was something that they can have access to. And one person who I know that's really good at that is Roselin. So I thought that, with my passion and, the social impact that I want to create and her business knowledge, because we speak the same language, we make a great team. So one day I asked her, upon going for Magic Boot Camp, I came back and then I sat down. I thought, okay, I'm going to re-strategize this whole thing. I asked Rose, do you want to be my co-founder? And she said yes. And then
you proposed to her, lah. You proposed to her and you got married. Right. It's interesting because what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Vatsala, that's the message to everyone out there, is that sometimes when you have an idea, you have a dream, you have a calling and a purpose, and it's in your heart, and your heart wants to do something, but you might not have all the know-how. That's okay. You go and find the know-how, you find the right partners who are aligned with you and share the same values, and you bring your strengths, your individual strengths to that partnership. So I think many people want to do things, but they stop themselves because they say, yeah, but I don't know how to do this. I know how to do one part of it, but I don't know how to turn it into business. I don't know how to publicize it and so on. And that shouldn't be stopping us. Every plan starts with someone's dream. And we know of a lot of global entrepreneurs who didn't know much about the areas they went into, but they had a passion. And so great. It's great to see that, how you people met, you both met, and how you're aligned in your energies. And yes, you are right, Vatsala. From the first time of meeting the both of you, I said, these two women are very capable, but they're very different. How do you adapt to each other as different personalities? You're both very strong personalities, all right? One's tall and one's not so tall, and one is comes across as being softer and sweet, and the other one's like really strong. So how do you, and as you told me earlier that, you do fight sometimes, not fight, but you do like, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that. So how do you, align to and match each other's personalities?
Well, we always get into this debate of the devil advocate. When she says something, I say, okay, I'm just going to be the devil's advocate. I'm going to go against whatever you say. Now you convince me. So we will start going and we'll have the debate mode, and then we will come to, so I said, no, still, it's like until we do this conversation very often until we actually get clear about what we want. So that's how the journey from where we started up to now, it's like every other time, and it's more scarier now because initially, at least we used to talk and then we know what we are thinking. Now we literally, whatever I'm typing, and then she tells me she thinks the same thing, and then she types out. At times, we literally are sending the same message to each another, and I told her, OMG, this is getting very scary. So that aligned and clear we have become, and we literally can hear each and our inner voice. At times when we say something, we just look at each another, and then we will say what we are thinking, and then we go like, was my inner voice that loud? Yeah, so we
sometimes I'll be replying to someone and they say, I know you didn't mean that, you meant this, and your tone meant this. I say, yes.
So
you know what it's called? It's not called scary, it's called rapport. I'm a trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, and one of my fundamental modules in all my trainings is a communication module where I teach people how to build rapport. When people are actually able to almost read each other's thoughts, feel each other's feelings, and that, that empathy, it's actually that you are very deeply in rapport with each other. And it's an amazing thing to have as partners. It's y'all are naturally doing it. So that means that y'all are really very much aligned in your thinking, your value system, your purpose. You know, you're going together in one direction. So earlier, Vatsala, you mentioned that you went into the area of empowering women because you wanted to empower them to be financially independent, targeting in particular women who are in abusive relationships, right? Can you tell us more about that? What made you decide? How did these abusive relationships that women were in sort of propel you on your journey towards empowering women to become entrepreneurs?
All right. So through my earlier days, I still do it nowadays. So I have, I have a team to do it hereafter. But then earlier days, I used to wake up to problems by women. And then every time they came, especially if they're abused, depressed, and all that. And then I told them, I gave them a solution. I gave them a solution like go and call this, go and do this, go and do that, go to hospitals, go to police station, go and get a job and all that. And I realized they came back to me every 2 weeks, every 1 month, and every 2, 3 months once. They keep coming back, and they were saying the same thing. And then after about 1 year of doing it, I realized the problem is not solving. Of course, there's a solution there, but the core problem is not solving. And then I started to analyze the pattern. What is that? Going more into how's your lifestyle? Like, what is your pain points? What is their limitations? What is that actually holding them back? And then a few things that I realized that they lack financial independence, they lack the self-esteem, they lack self-love, they lack the support system that believes in them. And what I did thereafter, I said that, okay, now that you are in an abusive relationship, but you don't want to come out. Why is that you don't want to come out? Okay, all right, I know, because I have kids. So I then realized that, okay, what if I try giving her that financial independence first? And it's just not about financial, not just about earning any amount to pay herself. It is doing something that gives her back her value. Often women are being abused, their value are usually, the self-worth and self-value usually diminished, crushed by the abuser and perpetrator. So my role there was more on rebuilding that. So I rebuilt that. I made her do things that gave her value. Some of them don't want to do business. I say, okay, but at least you want to go for a hobby. You need to pay for yourself. Who's going to give you money? If you're going to ask your husband, he's going to tell you, you are living in my money, and that's going to crush you further. So what else are you going to do? And then she said, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this. But it didn't end there. It just didn't end with the 10 ringgit. It went on further because the more they fed themselves regained the self-value and self-worth, they thought that I should do more. Then I saw that their quality of life changed. Though they were still dependent, they still stayed in the relationship, but their quality of life changed. How they felt about themselves changed. And, in fact, how they stood up for themselves and said, no, this stops right here. If this is going to continue, I will walk away because I am independent now. So when I saw that happening, and it is just through social media that I was reaching out to these women. It's not even like face to face. So I thought that the moment I restore back their power dynamics, and the one thing I focus on is financial independence, it changed. Their word lives changing. So what I did was, okay, so I understood the pattern that it's not like overnight change. It was happening gradually over 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. And I saw that change happening. I thought that this is how it's going to be, this whole system, from advocacy, and then you have to give her the empowerment. And she needs to have a community that believes in her. And that is the 3 pillars of Mom Suresh that we have now. This is something that we, like what me and what Roselin said, as days goes by, as years goes by, as months goes by, we understood ourselves better. How are we actually going to do this? So today, we do it via advocacy, empowerment, and community building. So that was how the journey is like.
And Roselin, how did you come on board with this? You come up from a background of digital marketing and so on. So Vatsala was already in advocacy and, working in an NGO and all that. So how did you buy into this idea of us to go and start Mom's Village?
Actually, when I started off as a Facebook online seller, that was my journey 8 years back. I started because I wanted to do something by staying at home, taking care of my son. After I left, I was actually managing my husband's whole company. I was the operation manager, the operation, whatever you call it, no, sendiri berhad title lah, we bagi. So I was handling the whole operation, and when I conceived, I said, okay, time for me to actually take a back step because I want to be with him. But I am a person who's been working all the time. I cannot believe myself being a stay-at-home mom. So after 6 months, I said, I need to do something. I'll go crazy if I'm at home. So he said, okay, think about something that you want to do. So that's where I thought, let's try online business. So I went into Facebook, and that time, I know 8 years back, many of them don't want to buy anything online, but I just decided, let's try. Somehow I managed to do it. And whatever I did, I learned in a very expensive way. There's a lot of losses has happened, but eventually business started growing from selling accessories to fashions. I went into skincare. Then I just knew how to do the marketing online. And then I started having a lot of resellers who coming and asking me, teach me how to do this. So I had this thing as well because I feel you cannot be at home without an income. It will crush you. You will just feel, even though you're well taken care of, when you don't earn money, it somehow kills our self-esteem. So I thought, no, that's not going to work. So that I had that passion towards helping this woman to earn that little income, but of course was not to the extent because I was not exposed to abused women who comes and tell me all that. They don't. When they come to me, they're already ready to earn. So after they get comfortable with me, then only they tell the situation that they go in, and I see, yeah, that's the reason why we women has to have our financially strong, financial independent must be there. So that was something that I had in my mind and had, but when I met Vatsala, it became more what I would say, something that's I got aligned to it very fast because that was a vision, and she came from a front of bringing the woman who's from there, change their mindset and bring up, and I saw me coming into the right uh, direction where from there on I can teach them how to do it online because many of them can't go out because they have limitation, and from whom you can do this and you can earn. So when she put the idea, and I just thought, wow, this is amazing. We can actually do a lot of things with that combination of skill and the thoughts that we both have. So that's how I came on board. And yeah, so after I made Vatsala, I started knowing more details about how um, how the women actually been crushed when they don't have any support.
Yeah, that's also again another interesting point. Yeah, when you are ready, when your heart tells you that you want to do something, the right person or the right people will come into your sphere to help you manifest that. I mean, some people believe in God. I do. Some people believe in the universe. Whatever you believe in a way, it's like the law of attraction working, that when you're ready, the right person will come. Okay, so this segment is actually about how community can play a role in combating or helping victims of domestic abuse. Let's talk about that. You are both strong advocates of community involvement in combating domestic abuse. How do you feel communities can contribute and should contribute towards fighting domestic abuse? I know it's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big question, and something that always angered me is, why did the community say okay to this? Why is that we looked away? I get very angry when I see, I'm not even talking about community around us, even the community in social media, and all this has been normalized. Why is it okay? Why do you think it's okay? Is it okay because I grew up that way and I tolerated it and I survived, and you should go through it too? Why are we not ending it in our generation? So, like recently, there's an issue that came out, very sensationalized and all that. And what I was doing on my own with Roselin, I was doing this part of it, the hard part of it. Roselin was looking after this part of it. I said, no, we cannot do this alone. We need to have more people. We need to have more voices. We need to make the voices louder than all the noises that has been happening. Because often, of course, we are individual, and around us is a family. And after the family is the community, right? So sometimes I know that I'm right. I come forward and the family says that, okay, yes, I think you're right. And then the community comes and says, no, we have always been this way. It's going to continue this way. So it is so difficult for change to happen. So what happened is that I thought, okay, the intervention that I both always focus on is already the individual intervention. And then there's a family that is probably going to accept it, not accept it. But we thought that the community should also be supportive. Great intervention. And that is where we thought that we started the campaign called Ring a Ring for Roses. To call upon community intervention to intervene domestic violence. And community is so important because it's a bigger voice, a larger voice. These are the voices that's going to be heard by the policymakers even. So when we meant that part, and we also meant the individual, the family eventually changes. They have no choice because they're in between. But the ripple effect, what the community is going to bring forward, will cause changes in policy making. And eventually, whatever that we have, the vision that we have, a safer home for everyone, can be achieved. So that is the journey. So I would say that the one thing can, help stop domestic violence was the community involvement, especially during this MCO and the pandemic and all that. GB was a pandemic in a pandemic. It's already another issue. We're already having COVID-19 to deal with, but then we also had domestic violence, another pandemic in between all this. And because the survivor is not able to come out from the home, and the perpetrators are constantly watching over them, then I thought that if there's one person who can intervene, this is the community. It is the neighborhood, the immediate neighbor who can come forward and just intervene. You're not going to ask do you have milk? Can you send your wife out? Don't hit or anything. You're just going to interrupt the moment and say that, you see, you're being watched. And more important message to the survivors saying that, I have came forward for you. If you want to come forward, we are here. And that is a very strong message that we send out to the survivors.
So what you're saying, okay, you talked about a campaign called Ring a Ring for Roses. Roselin, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this campaign was actually was inspired by this Bajrao campaign from there. And then when Vatsala came and told about this, she said, I'm going to start this campaign because there's a lot of ladies have been stuck in the house. The house is no longer safe for them. And I said, okay, so for me, again, I'm not so exposed, so I follow her lead. So between both of us, it's always when we are not an expert in that field, we just keep quiet and follow the lead. Let's just go, jump into it, then we'll figure out how are we going to do this. So we both has that. Whenever I come with an idea and she comes that, okay, I'm not so sure what you're talking about, but guess what? Let's do it. So we has always been like that. So that's how the Ring and Ring for Roses started. And she was literally doing it on her own. And whenever people come to me for help, I help them. So I won't say I'm a person she writes about it every other day to set a mindset of these ladies who's reading it. And I just comment. I'm just those who supports her. But there was one moment that something happened, a very sensational news took place. I got so angry about that situation. Simply because this person could actually do all that he did, and he was even being interviewed in media after that, and none of the media person actually asked him, do you think what you did was right?
And you are talking about the Sugu Pavitra case. Let's put it out there, ladies. Let's not mince around.
Yes. So for me, is what Sugu did was wrong. But from another question that I asked, I was at that time, I think I was so furious until I told Vatsala that he did all that. And Pavitra went and bailed him out. And she accepted him back. And this guy is going around in media giving an interview. And none of them asked him, do you think what you did was right? Or none of them questioned him that what you did, because he walked around with a deadly weapon in public. So the question was, if she accepted this kind of situation and she thinks it's okay, because there was a lot of young ladies who was taking her as an idol, and people will think it's okay to be abused. I'm okay to have it. So that changed me, and I told her, let's make the noise.
And that's also more than Roselin was really angry at the community. I was also angry because the people around it, look away, it's just a family problem. Don't talk about it. So
Yes.
that really made us very angry.
Very angry, because it's not the matter of just it's like he literally had a weapon, and you're telling me it's okay for him to carry a deadly weapon like that and hit her in public, and you just go like it's a family problem. Like, really? So that really, I think, made it a big hit. Where that's where then I started talking about it, and I did get people telling me, why are you writing about this? Why are you talking about this? I said, this is exactly what society problem is. There is an issue, but
No.
because it's a taboo
Mm.
word, you don't want me to talk about it. But no, I'm going to make noise.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, as a community, I think that we should stop looking away. I was very disappointed in the community who built them Suku Pavitra up into being a sensation. At that point, you're following them. But when they did that, none of the audience came back and said what you did was wrong. They just said, oh, leave them alone, let them sort it out themselves. And I found that it was taking the easy way out. We're very cowardly in that way, not wanting to get involved. And personally, on a personal note, if I know any of my neighbors are abusing their maid or beating them up, I will go there and rescue her and take her out and hand her back to her embassy. And if I know that if any man is beating his wife, I would go there and stand up and tell him. I have gone and told men, I know what you're doing to your wife, you stop it right now. And actually, I learned that from my mother. I mean, she was amazing. She had a friend who was being beaten by the husband, and my mother and her friend went up and confronted him and said that if he ever laid a finger on her again, that they would beat him up. And I have strong women in my family like that. And I had my cousin whose domestic helper, was pregnant, and she lost the baby because the husband beat her up and kicked her. And she said, why are you taking it lying down? Who said it was right to allow your husband to beat you to lose the child? She said, the next time he comes after you, here, I show you, take this broomstick and tell him you will beat him. And she did. And he never laid a finger on her again. So people who beat their wives, I'm not saying they're evil. They are troubled people. And they probably come from family backgrounds where they saw abuse happening. So they do not have any other model for marriage other than to beat. And women who come from families where their mothers have been abused, the mother has said the message that it's okay. And what you said earlier, Vatsala, if I can take it, you also should take it. And this whole idea of it's better to have a husband who beats you than not have a husband at all, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And I know, ladies, by advocating that communities should participate, people have come at you and they have said to you, what, you want us to wash our dirty linen in public, you're advocating a high divorce rate and all that. How do you handle things like this?
Oh, so yeah, that was the reason I started from a one person doing things that I thought, no, I'm going to get more people, and just got 50%, 50 volunteers to be the same voice, doing the same thing that I'm doing, and doing it at larger scale. So I knew that when there is an issue it's being shut away, they're asking me to shut up. They're asking me to shut up because my voice means the voice of survivors. So if you are shutting me, you're shutting all of them off. Why are you doing that? Is it so that what values are we actually being grounded to? This is not our culture. Don't use culture as part of doing this. You just don't want to deal with it because you don't know how to deal with it. And I'm not talking about people who are just illiterate people. These are literate people. Like they could be highly, in a high position. They could be lawyers, they could be doctors, they could be psychologists, and coming and telling me this. And I thought that, okay, then I realized that, yes, so they are this group of people, learned people, but they're not gender-based violence literate. They don't know about that part of the story. Then I said that, if I'm going to keep quiet because I'm being shut away, then I don't deserve to stand up for all these women. So I said, okay, fine. If you're going to shut me away, I'll just make the voice louder. So I got in more people who was going to speak the same language. I'm going to train them. I'm going to use this model that has been, working. I'm going to pilot it. I'm going to have 6 women there, sitting there, listening to you, doing the same thing I'm doing, and getting more women to be empowered. What else can you do? So the more you ask me, I know that there's a more issue to be addressed. I will do bigger things. So keep asking me questions, and I will do bigger things, because that is the only thing that powers me.
Great. I mean, when you have a purpose, you will do anything. and, be really powered by that purpose. Now, very interestingly, I personally have taken women I know to the police station after they've been beaten to lodge a police report. And I've had the policeman saying, "Ma'am, what is your relationship? I'm a friend. You please step outside." I'm like, "Yeah, but she needs support. She's shaking. She's been beaten. She's tearing. She needs support." "No, madam, sorry, you have to stand outside." And I found that annoying. Number two, they were then told, "Why you want to make a police report? This is a family issue. Go and settle it with your husband. Think of your children." And authority figures were supposed to be there to protect the woman and telling them to go back into the home and and touch the feet of the abuser and further sort of giving them that sense of low self-esteem. So coming back to some practical things that we as a community, we as sisters, brothers, fathers, mothers, can do. And I've even seen daughters being abused by their daughters seeing their parents, fathers abusing their mothers. What can we do as family members, as friends, as community members? Some practical steps that we can take, Roselin and Vatsala.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. I'll let you go first, Vats.
All right. I think the one thing about domestic violence is about very deep-rooted power of control. It's because if this pen, it belongs to me, then I have all the power to do whatever I do to this pen. But I won't do the same thing to another person. So if another person is intervening and said, "This stops right here," or just make the voice louder. They like bell bajao. They were calling upon neighbors to come and ring the bell to ask, "Do you have what is the time today? Do you have milk? Do you have sugar?" But basically, your intention was not to save the person, but you are intervening the violence moment. Because the moment you intervene it, the message sends across to the perpetrator, "Okay, I should stop. What they are doing this because they want to intervene me," right? And often, that yes, because we don't know how to react with all this, then what we do is we just look away. It's just easier to look away and walk away than standing right there and stepping in and saying, "This stops right here." If you're afraid to do that, do other things. Call 15999. Just call, make a report. And then let them go to police station and deal with all that. Then they know that this is the process. This is the process that they're going through. It is a punishable crime. Right? And yes, I do get that same, the police told me to go back home and settle it and all that. There's another way they can do it is go to one-stop crisis center, the government hospitals and all that. But then, again, I realized that women don't want to go because they have so many other issues to deal with. If I go and he is being caught and he goes inside, how am I going to self-sustain? How am I going to feed my children? Who's going to pay the rent? So that is when I realized that I need to enable her to do all that. Then she's able to do all this. So that is why we bridge the gap between the NGOs, between the lawmakers, between them, and this is the grassroots people. We just bridge them, give them all the resources that they need. If you know someone around you who is undergoing domestic violence, I think the first thing we should do is believe in her. You don't go and ask her like, "What did you do? What did you do that you were hit? What?
Are you sure he did that?
What did you do to deserve a beating?
Yeah.
Who deserves a beating? Whoever deserves to be beaten."
So yeah, that's what they ask.
The mindset is such that they come and ask them such a thing. Like I know somebody asked, like in a way, like, "He's so sweet. Are you sure he did that to you?" Like, hello,
are you lying?
So why would I even want to create a story like that?
Yeah, because it's so difficult for them to come forward and say that, I'm being abused, I need help. It is not an easy thing to do, but if she's coming forward and you are at least watching it in front of your eyes, step forward, at least make yourself known that to the survivor that, "You see, I am here. You can come to me for help. I will guide you. What are the things that you can do? What are the resources available for you?" So yes, if you see someone hitting, just stop right there. Just make some noise, I used to hear last week we were talking to someone, they said that if the neighbor was actually, making a lot of noise, in this house, they'd be throwing all this hati pane, all this puriyo, all, so that it makes louder noise and they will keep quiet. Because that sort of intervenes the moment.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And I also think that if you hitting another human being is a crime.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. If you do not intervene, you are an accessory to that crime. That's my stand on it. So if you know, even and even if someone in your family is being subject to verbal violence, which can be as painful. And I've heard people say, but he didn't beat you, what? He just said some nasty things, scolded you, why are you leaving? You know, verbal assault, verbal violence can be equally as demeaning as physical abuse. You know that. If you hear someone in your family, a husband, wife talking like that, you're living in the same house, put a stop to it immediately. Don't be quiet. Or worse still, say, no lie, okay, he's just doing it for your own good.
Maybe he's angry.
Oh, he's angry, you know, he's short-tempered, you know, he's just short-tempered, he's throwing words.
No, not acceptable.
And there's another question, like in domestic violence situations, usually the focus of attention becomes the victim, the one who's assaulted. Are you sure it happened to you? Never mind, just go back. He loves you. You know, you have children together, blah, blah, blah. What about interventions for the abuser?
Yeah. So interestingly, after we started this Ring a Ring for Roses, for past 1 month, I was actually reading a lot on what kind of other community-based interventions are available that we can adopt to in the pipeline even. So one of the very interesting one was bachelor intervention that is not available in Malaysia, but the closest we have is in Singapore, right? But I think that, like you said, Madam Sheila, the bachelor themselves could be a victim of domestic violence. A victim in any situation, maybe as a child, they grew up watching their parents being abusive to each other. So that, in fact, has ingrained and normalized them to do that. They thought it was okay. So I believe that, there's something that we lack. We always want to punish the perpetrator. Yes, it is a punishable crime. But what happens after that? He needs to undergo rehab. It needs to be nullified, normalized. He needs to come back to something that something is nullified. I would call it. He has to heal the generation so that he don't carry that onto his children, or if this survivor, this woman happens to walk away, then the next victim is already in place waiting if he's going to get married again. So he needs rehab. So I think that's one part that we lack in Malaysia, that we need to also focus on the better interventions. Yeah.
And Roselin, anything to add?
We spoke to Miss Ivy after speaking to you, Miss Sheila, we actually met Miss Ivy in one of the events, and we spoke about it. And when we spoke about this, and she went like, let the guys handle that part by themselves. Why must we women come up with a counseling session? Of that we went like, oops, okay, we could feel her, because she's like, they are just taking advantage of a woman. Why would you all want to waste time coming up with a program?
Well, they are not handling it themselves. Maybe they don't know how to handle it themselves. Why would a guy who's abusing a woman and getting the upper hand, why would he think that if he doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong, how is he going to handle it in the first place? Well, I certainly don't agree with that, but thanks for bringing that up. So ladies, I'm like amazed with what y'all have put together, with what y'all are doing. Many people talk about at a conceptual level about domestic violence. Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, Madam Sheila, I just want to add in something. While we're talking about the better intervention, I actually have two men who came forward. One case that I really recall, he asked for intervention so that he can stop his abusive relationship while I was actually doing the research on better intervention. So I thought if there's one man who's willing to change, that means I've already healed one generation. One generation of under him, that whole generation is not going to deal with TV thereafter, hopefully. So like I said, that it's not something that men are not coming forward. They are coming forward. I think if they know there are such interventions available, they will come forward instead of,
if there is, yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Adding on to that as well, Miss Sheila, that I also had a guy who come and ask, woman who's been abused, you all have so much as support, but man who's been abused, they don't have anywhere to go. So we do, and then when I went like, yeah, truth, I told you, why don't you open a network and then you can, heal them. The men will be comfortable talking to you. You say, yeah, but nobody are there for us. So there is something that's been lacking in Malaysia, I guess, that awareness. People talk a lot about how we protect women, but nobody talks about how we protect men. Probably
Yeah,
that's
so two things: how to protect men and how to rehabilitate the ones who are abusing. And that brings an interesting point, Vatsala and Roselin, because the fact that the man wants to change, but he's still doing it, in a way, it proves that in many instances, these behaviors are compulsive. They are sort of patterns of behavior that have been or sort of acquired by what they've seen, what they have experienced. As you say, it's normalized because they've been in that environment, but somewhere along the line, they've begun to realize it's not right and they want to change. So saying that let men take care of that, I don't quite agree with that. I think that if we're going to go and really make a difference as advocates to this, we need to explore every avenue. I understand that, ladies, yeah, you're awesome. You're doing it on so many platforms, empowering women to be entrepreneurs so that they can gain financial independence, a system of community awareness so that people can intervene when there's abuse going on. And then you even have your tribe of people who are there to answer calls. And as we have discussed before, many women who are in an abuse situation, they won't just walk up, right? They might leave and they might come back again, or many of them are reluctant to leave on so many counts. There are children involved. There's a lifetime of being together. And it's not an easy journey. But I think if they know that they have the support of the community, family members, not normalizing it, not dismissing it, but really taking it seriously, as you said, very few women will come up and say, I'm being beaten simply for the sake of fun, because for many women, it's a very demeaning thing. So when a woman comes up and says, I'm being beaten finally, or being abused, it's taken a lot for her to say that. And I think at that point in time, we should really, really offer her that community support. And I believe that support should start as individuals within the confines of our own family system and our own neighborhoods. Right?
yes.
Right. Any final words, ladies, that you want to share before we call it a day? Roselin?
Well, I call out to everyone whenever you hear uh, what we call that as a help call from anyone. When you hear noise and when you are crying, all you need to do is just do something that you intervene the moment so that stops. Especially, that's what for me is, let us make the louder noise so we have a bigger group of people who's aware that domestic violence is not right. It's totally wrong. No matter what's said and done, it's totally wrong. So whoever sees it, just don't look away. Please, please, please do something to intervene the moment.
And Vatsala?
I think for women, before you put anyone else out there, it should always be you. You know, you have to put oxygen mask for yourself. It's always you first. So we have been normalized to accept that everyone else is in front, goes before you, and then you always take the last bite available. Maybe there's no bite. But if you don't feed yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't have a passion, you don't have a value for yourself, then nothing else matters, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. So the day that you know your value, everything else will fall into place, right? You will stand up and say, this ends right here. I don't deserve to be treated that way. Or when I say, I'm going to go for it, pursue a passion, a dream, my career, or this is what I always wanted to do, just do it, because no one else is going to live it up for you. It's only you. So yes, and I call upon the community support. If you hear cries of abuse, intervene. If you don't know what to do, at least believe the survivor. Tell them that you are there for them, and you can reach them. Sorry, you can reach them to the available resources. We are here. They can get connected to me and Rose. via Mom's Split. We have a page called Ring a Ring for Roses. We have a panel of counselors, registered counselors are there to hear you and bridge you to the available organizations. And yeah, we are here. You just have to ask. Come and ask us. We are there to guide you. And this call is open to everyone. Women who you don't have to be literate or illiterate, B40, M42. It's for everyone. We are here for humanity. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies. Yes,
You
Roselin.
can also call 1599 if you think it's too much for you to go and intervene. Just call them and say, I think something is happening. Can you please come and check it out? That will also definitely will be very helpful. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ladies, for being with me today. That was really inspiring what you're doing. And I wish you every success, every blessing in your endeavors with Mom's Village to create a whole, group of women and entrepreneurs, and in educating society and communities against domestic violence and abuse. Thank you so much for being with me this evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Pleasure.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
And Vatsala, you owe me another 10 ringgit.
Yes.
Oh, no.
We're going for a coffee and a cake. Yay!
Every time she calls me Madam Sheila, she needs to put 5 ringgit in the kitty and we'll have coffee and cake. That's $40 now, right? 40 ringgit.
Yes.